Welcome to Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockerell. Lessons in leadership, management, and customer service. You can create magic too. I'm your host, Jody Maberry, and I am back home in Washington State. Lee is at home in Orlando, but both of us have been gone for quite a while, or it's been a little while. Lee and I usually talk at least once a week, but we had a stretch of 2 weeks of not talking because I was in Alaska speaking on a cruise for Royal Caribbean. I was back for a weekend and one day, and then off to California for D23. And Lee was in Australia and somewhere else. Lee, you've been really busy. I know we've got something not fun to get into, but interesting. But you've been on the road quite a bit lately.
Yeah, I went to Australia for 6 days for a speaking tour engagement. I had 3 speeches over there for a company I've worked for before, and it's a tough trip. It's 20 hours in the air, so I'm still recovering. I don't know what day it is now, but yeah, it was good. Right.
Yeah, well, Lee, I do want to get into a little bit of D23, the ultimate Disney fan experience. That was my first time there. There's some things to talk about. But first, I want to mention Lee is bandaged up or stinted up on his right arm from his knuckles all the way to his elbow. Lee, there's a story there. Tell us what happened.
Well, I think the story is for everybody, and good lesson for me and anybody else is little things can become big problems. So I had a little scratch on my back of my hand from working out in the yard one day, and so I just put Neosporin on it like I normally would, and a Band-Aid, and it was smaller than the size of a dime, and got on a plane, went to Australia, and it kept getting worse. So I went to a doctor in Australia, got antibiotics. Still got worse because it didn't. Those antibiotics apparently weren't strong enough. And by the time I got back Friday, I went directly to the emergency room. They cleaned it up and looked at it and told me if it wasn't better in 48 hours to come back. And it wasn't, so I went back actually in 24 hours. Then they put me in the hospital for 5 days, did surgery on it, a skin graft. I'm going like, what? And I've probably got enough antibiotics in here in my system now that nothing could kill me. But it just, you just don't realize the little thing you don't take care of, or even though I was taking care of it, it wasn't responding. So it's kind of like counseling people at work. Sometimes they don't respond, and you have to give them some antibiotics. So, yeah, anyway, it's healing. It'll be a little while, but it's okay. I got everything out of my system. I'm not going to die this week, but there you go. Now I know why you have two hands, because it's really quite complicated to work with one.
Yeah, that's right. Well, good. I know at first I said it was your right hand. It's actually Lee's left hand, luckily, because
Yeah.
he's right-handed. So it's not as inconvenient as it could be. But
Yeah.
and I'll tell you how you've probably picked up on this listening to the podcast. Lee is still the Oklahoma farm boy he's always been, and he mostly act like nothing's wrong. He'll just get through it. And once I found out Lee was in the hospital, he told me I don't need anyone checking up on me, but I still called him every day because why wouldn't I? And I'm glad it all turned out, Lee. And it is a great lesson that small problems unattended become big problems, but sometimes small problems even attended to still become big problems. And I think that's a really good lesson to realize that if you see a problem and you walk past it, it's going to become a bigger problem. And sometimes even if you deal with it, it's going to become a big problem. And you may not end up in the hospital like Lee, but there will be things you have to deal with.
Yeah, and really in every part of your life, these kind of things pop up. Somebody I read the other day, it said, you were put on earth to survive, not to be happy. So you kind of be ready for all the times that the world tries to kill you. And survive, yeah. So do the right thing, do it quickly. As I told the doctors, they said, "Now here's what you need to do, and you need to do this." And I said, "Listen, you just tell me what to do, because I listen to experts. I don't go to Facebook for this." And the nurse said, "Good, thank you. I wish everybody was like that." And I said, "I'll do exactly what you tell me. Don't worry about it." So that's a good lesson too. Be careful where you get your expertise.
Yeah. Well, Lee, I will come back to this idea of little problems become big problems. But I want to bring up D23 because I know there's people that are fans of Disney have a lot of questions about that event. Lee, did you ever go? Have you ever been to D23?
I never have, actually. I hear all kinds of nice things about it and see all the postings on the internet, and it's amazing. The shows they put on and the princesses and the singing, and yeah. But no, I've never personally been.
Well, I got to experience it in a way most people wouldn't because I was there with Bob Weiss, and Walt Disney Imagineering got us passes that allowed me to go anywhere, do anything, which made for a different event, but it allowed me to see it in the sense of how Disney operated it, which was phenomenal. As you would expect, if Disney's going to put on an event, it's going to be phenomenal. And they took the Anaheim Convention Center, which I had been to before. I had been to an event there before. But once Disney gets a hold of it, it becomes something completely different. They really created magic with it. The essence of Disney was there the moment you walked in. And I was so impressed, Lee, that they could take a regular convention center that is nice, but a regular convention center and make it feel like a Disney event. And getting to be backstage and see the people that were doing the work backstage, I realized it is the cast members that create so much of that Disney essence.
Lots of talent at work to working together. It's amazing. I agree. And I was watching it on the internet too, and it blew. I mean, it's impressive. I don't know how they do it, and quite moving, quite emotional. The singing and the songs and the awards. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, quite an event. So I just wanted to make sure I talked about that before we come back to little problems become big problems. And I did see at D23 there were very few little problems that were not handled immediately.
Yeah.
It seemed like everything was thought through. Bob Weiss had a lot of different book signings, and even the way the lines were thought through. That if you make a reservation, you go here, and we work through this line, and then it's open to anyone in the queue. The
Yeah.
shopping, Lee, my goodness, the shopping. You had to do you had to apply for a virtual queue, which then could, once you got picked in the virtual queue, then that gave you permission to go stand in the really long line to do some shopping. But
Got
just
approval to spend your money, huh?
yeah, that's right. And a lot of people didn't even get to stand in line to shop.
Wow.
But the way that they thought through everything and realized, oh, if we just let people walk into the retail areas as they wish, it's going to be so crowded, it'll be a terrible experience. I just realized that was a case where they looked at the small things that avoided really big problems, because nobody would have a good time if the capacity of a retail area was, and I'm going to make these numbers up, but if the capacity is 100 and 200 people are in there, well, it's terrible for everybody. So they probably, if the capacity was 100, it felt like they were probably allowing 80 to 90 in, because then you don't feel rushed, you don't feel crowded. It's a good shopping experience. It was just so neat to see how they handled all these little things so they did not become big problems, which ties in to what we're talking about, that if you can pay attention to those, the little details, it eliminates so many big problems for you.
Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson for managers and leaders out there in the world, and potential managers and leaders. when they go to Disney World or Disneyland Paris or Japan or anywhere, just to really pay a lot of attention, because they can learn a lot in just a few days about how they can apply those same attention to detail standards back in their own businesses. And somebody said, "How do you do it? And how do they do it?" And I said, "Well, it's just that training, having the right people, enforcement, the rules, regulate. We do it that way. And that's the key: the right people that can be well trained and then implement." So, yeah, there are many lessons there, and I hear people all the time telling me they went to Disney World and learned so much about how to go back and operate their own business better, just by having higher expectations for everybody. So
Yeah, that is such an interesting thing about Disney. You can go to Disneyland, Disney World, any of the hotels, even an event like D23, and watch how Disney does things and then take it back with you and improve just from going to an event, just from going on a vacation. You can learn a lot.
it'll almost make you can write off the cost of that on your income tax because you went on a learning. And literally, you can, and somebody ought to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing I want to tie into this. Lee has talked about this many times over the years that we've been doing this show, that he used to walk his hotel every day when he was a general manager at Marriott. And then when he went to Disneyland Paris, he applied that. Once he got to Orlando, he applied that. When he was executive vice president of Walt Disney World, he would still walk the operation. Now, that's a much bigger operation to walk. It's not like Lee could walk every park, every hotel in a day. But Lee, tell us what do you look for when you're walking an operation? What small problems do you look for to make sure they don't become big problems? And then how do you handle those?
Well, I can tell you, when you force yourself to start doing that at first, you don't see a lot of things. But by, maybe the sixth day, you see something you didn't see on the first day. And then as the cast members, the employees get comfortable with you, you see things, you can stop and show them things, a way to do it. They're open-minded. And the key is they start telling you things that you should know so that you can use your authority to fix them for them to have a better work environment and better resources or tools. And it's just like anything. The more you do it, the more you see. And then tomorrow morning you see that thing you saw yesterday, and it's either fixed or it's not fixed. And the routine is an amazing thing for getting things done and not letting them slip away. It's like every day you pass that place, the same place, and you see it, and and I think the biggest thing was the employees getting comfortable with me, because they saw me so often. After a while, that fear of the boss went away, and I was just one of the guys, and they knew that if they told me something, I wrote it down in my day timer, and then a day or two or three, it would be fixed. I might mention it on the way, or they might tell me, "Thanks for doing that, Lee. That was good." Because the key is, if somebody tells you has to fix something and you're the leader and you don't fix it, then you really lose credibility very quickly. And then they won't be saying good things about you behind your back. So it's just, and you know the business. You see guests, you talk to guests, you look at clean rooms. Are they clean? Everything that you're trying to do is out in the operation. It's not in your office. I guess outside your office is reality. So you can sit in your office and think everything's perfect till you get out there walking around. So yeah, I really recommend it for people to do it. You even if you have a big call center, listen to calls every day. See what the customers are complaining about, what they're not happy about, what the kind of answers your people on the telephones are giving, what kind of training they need. That's your main business. And some companies, and you never associate with a company except by telephone. So it's really important that happens well, and the people are knowledgeable, and they have a nice voice, and they act, and at least they speak to you in a way that you feel like they do care about why you called, and they're going to help you. And finding out the facts in life are really important, and you can do that through routine. Yeah. It's like your kids. Go in their room If you have teenagers, you go in the room every 20 minutes, find out what's going on in there.
Yeah, which is a great idea, and even in am learning even in their early 20s, it's a good idea to check up on what's
Yeah, I
going
mean, it's a
on.
good. It's just a good thing to remember that if you want to know, you got to go to the source. You know, it's like Columbo, that old detective movie. He said, "Go to the scene of the crime if you want to solve it." That's you'll find some evidence.
Yeah. All right. I think this has been a great discussion, a great reminder. Lee sacrificed his left arm, an infection in his left arm, just to help us learn this lesson. And I want to mention again our that D23 was fantastic. If you get the chance to go, it truly is the ultimate Disney fan experience. It was incredible. And I think while you're there, probably visit Disneyland and Disney's California Adventure. And you can do that by calling our friends at Magical Vacation Planner. You can reach them at 407-442-2694. And next time we have an episode, we'll have an update on Lee's arm and how he's doing. But you know Lee will push through and he will be fine. I'm glad you're doing well, Lee.
Thank you, sir.
All
Wash
right,
your
and-
hands.
Wash your hands. There you go. Another lesson for today. Until next week, go out and create magic for others.